Right.
So it's like a link people can just go around there, right?
Yeah. Have you never been to it?
I've been on the website, not for a while though, about a year.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll write a story for it. Okay. And I'll do like 2 parts, so it'll be like 1,000 words. Okay. I'll break it in half. I'll put like a couple pictures from here, and I'll download some picture off of this, and maybe download like 15 seconds of it or whatever, so you just download it. Just watch something.
You put a link for Punisher Athletics on there?
Sure. We'll do that. I'm really terrible about doing shit like that, so I'll make sure I do it. I gotta make myself some notes. What I want to do is I want to try and get something on you that nobody really knows. So, like, I think it's really important. I do the same thing. I work with kids, especially underdeveloped kids, because I come from drug addicts too. I'm a former drug addict. So, what I want to talk about first is tell me about what your program is that you're doing with kids, or I don't know if you're doing it officially or not, but talk to me about that.
Actually, we're just starting it with my new agent, Bardia.
Okay.
We're working with a new agency that did the Doug Flutie Foundation.
Okay.
The Tito Ortiz Foundation. It's to work with underprivileged kids, of course, trying to help out, keep them out of drugs, off the streets. Kids who come from broken homes, you know, kids who kind of been abused their whole lives and stuff like that. Kind of give them self-worth, self-gratification. They are real people themselves. A lot of kids have problems with that. And so it's kind of just to help them out, keep them out of gangs, of course, off the street, and give them, we're going to start opening the possibility of after-school programs with training, jujitsu, stuff like this, learning classes to help them with their homework and stuff like that. And this is something that local YMCAs, or even open up a gym itself. I know there's a lot of warehouses in Santa Ana and stuff like that to help out with the kids. And start out in Southern California, and after Southern California, move on to other states, and try to work as far east as New York.
Are you going to try and stay in the Latino community then, initially? Or
initially, yeah. Initially, I'll stay with Latino. I mean, kind of the lower class, and then try to work my way up, and just try to get kids something else besides just not doing anything, getting in trouble, and going to juvenile hall. Catch the kids before they make it to juvenile hall, before they make it to jail and everything, and try to keep them in school and show them that school and education is really one of the really important things in life.
I've heard you talk a couple different times that you kind of grew up in gangs, that you were influenced, that your mother and father were drug addicts, and that you had a pretty tough childhood, and that you were raised pretty much in gangs.
Yeah.
How do you feel like, talk to me about what you think wrestling, I guess initially in sports in high school, and how early you got started. Talk to me a little about that and what that did for you to get you out of that.
From about the age 5 to about 13, my parents were drug addicts. My mom had ended up separating with my dad because one of my friends in Santa Ana got shot, got killed, and they kind of realized, like, wow, this is going to happen to my son. My mom took a huge step by separating from my dad. I mean, a lot of women can't do that. They can't just leave their husband just because of their kids. I mean, they'll end up sticking with them no matter what.
Right.
My mom wanted to make sure I wasn't going to die, make sure that I was going to have a brighter future, so she separated with my father, moved back to Huntington Beach, and at that time I was still getting into trouble, causing trouble. And then I was hanging out with a couple of my buddies, and they were in internet gangs. I was hanging out with still the wrong people. We were doing a lot of thieving stuff, burglary stuff that we never got caught for. But I mean, it was the wrong thing, but it seemed normal to me because my whole life I was growing up always trying to get ahead by selling some drugs or stealing something to sell so I could make some extra money to buy some clothes or something. So it was just a factor that when I got into school was all of a sudden there was sports where I didn't like football because football is more of a team deal. You had guys who want to be, I catch the ball, I run this from the yard, this and that. Then there was guys where they were wrestlers where it was like, what do you got to do to become better? Personally, not team-wise. It was each person to become better. And I loved to fight. I had older brothers that beat my ass all the time. I had older friends I was in gangs I used to fight with. So it was more that I had a lot of aggression I had to let go. Wrestling, I got to slam people on their head and take people down. It was like I got looked upon. I got looked up for that. When people were like, "Oh, good job, man." They always kind of gave me self-gratification, knowing that the more I did in that work as wrestling, that the better I did, the more attention I got. And I was like, "Wow, this is cool. I'm getting the attention I never had." So I started doing that, and then as soon as I started doing that, it was like it just stuck to me, man. I fell in love with the sport. I mean, people have Jesus Christ to change their lives. Well, I got lucky, man. I had wrestling to change my life. That was something. I mean, I'm not a religious person. I believe in there's God. I believe in there's devil. I mean, there's Jesus. I mean, there's something else that would never be talked about. I just believe in being a really good person to help out others. That's what really matters, I think. I mean, I'm not so worried about after I'm dead, if am I going to heaven or am I going to hell. I'm worried about the time right now. Am am I going to make a difference in a kid's life of what I'm doing as a fighter, as a champion fighter, knowing hard work, dedication, dedicating yourself to your job? Well, in wrestling, that's what I learned. I learned how to dedicate myself to become a great wrestler by having to know how to eat right, drilling all the time, running all the time, lifting weights all the time. That's what made me a better person, it seemed like. So the more I wrestled, the better I became, and mentally and physically, I think. And I think wrestling is what helped me out a lot.
Okay. Who would you say, I mean, early on, obviously, you're going to have a wrestling coach or whatever. That's a mentor to you. Who would you say have been your mentors? Like, you were initially somehow involved with Tank Abbott, correct? Like, when you first came into the UFC.
Well,
in some way, there was a tie there.
Yeah.
And you had the bad boy image and all of that. It seems to me, and to other people, as I talk personally to you, that you're not the same person you are in the ring. Are you stepping away from the bad boy image and trying to?
Well,
is Randy Couture influencing?
Randy Couture has always been a huge influence to me ever since I started fighting. But there's two different people. There's Tito Ortiz, who's outside the octagon, shaking hands, doing autographs, being, like I say, respectful to everybody. And there's Tito Ortiz that steps into the octagon. And it's the Huntington Beach bad boy. That's the guy who flips the light switch on, and it's like, I'm in there to kick ass. I'm in there to take care of business and do what I have to do best, and that's kick ass, man. That's what I believe in. And if you can't find a difference in each, and you can't find the medium of being a cool person, then you're not going to do that well, I don't think. You got to have light switch, man. You got to be an animal at times, and then I think you could say, I don't want to say conceited, or really controlled person. You got to have a part of being controlled and have that aggression where you have the medium of getting both. And when I get in the octagon, it's just like, man, the light switch turned on, that red light's on, and it's just like, everything I worked before, I get all the aggression when I was a little kid, man, all the times that I've hated people and just put it all out on the line right there. And then when I fought Randy Couture, that wasn't there because I looked up to Randy too much. I gave him respect. Before the fight even started, I'd go walk across the octagon and fucking touch gloves with him. I never do that shit. Never, man. Never do that stuff. And it was just, I respected him too much. I respect Randy a lot. I mean, I love the guy. The guy's an awesome guy. I mean, he's helped me out without him even knowing he's helped me out at being a better fighter, just like some of the things he does in training and the age he is, the things he does. But now it's like, I gotta not like Randy anymore, man. I gotta stop liking him. I just have to. I mean, this is something, I mean, maybe after I do beat him, I'll start liking him again, but I don't like him anymore. I don't know what it is. I mean, I can't say what's up to him anymore. I mean, yeah, I talk to Dan Ender, tell him I said hi, and that's it, but that's as far as it goes, man. And person to person, I can't like the person, man. I can't, because I can't do that anymore with guys who want to fight again.
I understand that.
Then there's a total different feeling when I go in there and fight. When I go to punch the guy, I'm not punching with anger like when I fought Ken Shamrock. I hated him. I still hate the guy. I hate him. I just don't like him just because of his attitude. And it's just, I'm there to show a difference of who Tito Ortiz is when I step in the octagon. I'm going to make sure every time I fight like that, I'm going to show that. So when I fight Chuck Liddell, I don't like Chuck, man. I mean, as a good friend who we used to be, and he says we never were, but I just don't like the guy anymore. I hate the guy. I can't wait to beat his ass down. And I think that's what's going to fuel the fire again that I once had before. And I think that's what, I think the fire's starting to build. It's getting worse and worse. And when I step in the octagon on April 2nd, I mean, people are going to see me, the old Tito Ortiz back. Fuck you guys. It's all kind of attitude, you know. That's the attitude I need to have back because that's what brought me here, you know. That's what kept me winning. But I mean, after, of course, I want to be the champion outside of the ring, of signing autographs, helping kids out. I'm always going to have that attitude, man. That's me. And when I look in the mirror when I go to bed at night, I'm only looking at myself, man. There ain't nobody else looking at me. It's just myself looking in the mirror, and I want to make sure when I look in the mirror, I don't see the back of my head, that I see my face, and I think that's what really matters at the end of the day.
You've been called a marketing machine. So there's definitely a distinction between who you are right now set in front of me and who you are when you're out there. So to clarify, what you're saying is a whole bunch of that is marketing, and then there's also the mental aspect that you have to get ready and not like the person across the ring from you.
I think it's really different because in Ultimate Fighting, there's different. I was a huge WWF fan. Huge. I'm still in. Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage, those guys are images. Those guys it wouldn't matter if they lost or if they won. Tank Abbott, they wouldn't matter if they lost or if they won. Just wanted to see them no matter what.
Right.
And that's the image that people wanted to see. I mean, it was just how you can market yourself, how you do your PR, how you shake hands with people, man. It's face to face, look them in the eye, say, nice to meet you. People don't, I mean, if you look at a guy and say, hey, nice to meet you, don't look him in the eye, man, there's a huge difference. So all of a sudden, when it comes about with PR, I mean, I have my own fighter cards. I was the first fighter to do that. Have my own slogan line. I was the first fighter to do that. And I believe it's just marketing tools, man. People say, well, yeah, UFC are helping you out a lot to do it. I'm the one that has to speak for myself when it comes to interviews. I I do some of the best interviews. Guys go, man, I ain't got to ask you a question. I ask you one question, you can do the whole interview just by asking one question. Because I work so hard at home, it just kind of drill myself and going, what if you ask this question? What if you ask this question? And making sure I have the right answer for each question. And that's hard work on myself. But yeah, but UFC gave me the opportunity. But if I didn't take advantage of the opportunity when it happened, then I would just be a Matt Hughes or just like some of the other guys who were just champions that just were just fighters, man. That's all they did was just fight. They didn't have anything else. And my idea is becoming an actor, man. I want to be an actor, and I think acting is. I've been acting my whole life, man. I've always wanted to be someone, and it seems like I came from the streets. I mean, I lived in hotels and motels, and none of my friends ever knew that. No one ever knew that because I always acted like, oh, I had a home. I mean, I had clothes. I mean, I used to steal my clothes and stuff like that. But I always had to put on a big show to kind of hide what was really the kid that was living in the streets, that had parents who were addicts, and people never knew that about me because I acted so well that everything was normal. Everything was fine. I had money in my pocket and everything was normal. People never knew that. So all of a sudden when I do acting, I mean, I just pulled off another movie, Newport Heights, and I'm acting like this Italian Vinny guy, and it's like I get the accent down, but it's acting, man, and I feel it because it's so real when I do it. But it comes to everything in life, man. Yeah, you don't want to be a liar. Liars, I don't really dig liars that much, but if you can act to make yourself a little bit better person, but not being fake about it, I think that's what matters in the sport itself. But I mean, outside the octagon, I'm real, man. I'm no different than anybody else, actually.
You know, I think one of the primary purposes in this sport is to try and go mainstream. I mean, that's what everybody wants to do. They talk about mainstream all the time.
People got to put the heart.
You have done more to mainstream this sport than any other athlete in the sport right now. You're obviously the biggest athlete in the UFC. You're the personality that everybody looks for. When actors come to the UFC and they interview them, Tito. The thing that's impressive, though, is that you have done this through skill and attitude, and then you've marketed yourself correctly. I think that's pretty impressive. On your training, I mean, obviously your skill comes from both good genetics and training. Talk to me a little bit about training. Tell me about drilling. Tell me about how important wrestling is, and I want to get into the aspects of grappling because we're doing this for Abu Dhabi. So talk to me a little about that.
Well, in mixed martial arts itself, I think the best foundation is wrestling because you learn, for one, aggression, 2, balance, 3, stamina. Wrestlers always have great stamina, and leverage, man. I mean, everything becomes leverage and aggression. You watch a lot of jiu-jitsu guys who are really slow and laid back and rolling in the guard. Yeah, jiu-jitsu's awesome. I mean, that's the best martial art you could probably learn on the ground. But standing up is the aggression of wrestling. And having the base of wrestling, of not getting taken down, learning to take down defenses, learning to take down offenses, I think that's what really matters, and that was my base. But then when you get everything together with the kickboxing, the boxing, the jiu-jitsu, then you start to put yourself to a different level than everybody else. When I first started training, I had to catch up to everybody else because I started when I was 22. I had to catch up to everybody else I've been training when they've been 15 years old, 18 years old, and I had to catch up to everybody else. So I was training 7 days a week, 6 to 8 hours a day, and I was pushing myself to the limit each and every time because I had to learn. I would go and learn to guys who would know the best in jiu-jitsu, the guys who knew best in kickboxing, the best in wrestling, and I would try to learn from everybody and try to add everything together. Yeah, there'd be times that I wouldn't learn everything from one guy, but I learned one little small, turn your hip this way, just one little point, and that would help out a whole bunch. I learned cardio from one person, and that would help out a bunch. I learned jiu-jitsu from one person, that would help out a bunch. And there were just little things that I put together, and it's kind of like putting a collage on, man, making a big collage, and that's how I was doing. I was just putting this picture here, and it's just like all of a sudden it started forming together, the puzzle started coming apart, and 6 years later, man, I'm where I am now, and it's like now I'm showing people the steps to become where I became. And it comes of drilling, of course, doing the moves over and over and over and over and over again. In school, when we're taught in grade school is, here's a word, spell it 100 times. By the time you get that 100 times spelling, you can do it without even writing it. You can say it, and it's perfect. Same thing as jiu-jitsu. Same thing as wrestling. Same thing as boxing. Boxers, they start when they're 5, 6 years old. By the time they're 18 years old, they're professionals because they've been doing it so much, and they've drilled and rehearsed it so much in their head they can do it in their sleep. I mean, like I say, with visualization, when I was a wrestler, I could visualize myself doing the move. Well, to picture yourself do it, you got to know how to do it before you do it. So that way, when you visualize doing it, boom, I'm drilling it so much that it becomes instant. And it comes through boxing, through jiu-jitsu, doing the jiu-jitsu moves, doing submissions, arm locks, triangles, chokes, just doing them over and over and over and over and over again, so I could do it in my sleep without even thinking about it. And that's when you become a master in your own game, I believe.
Okay, obviously you like to punch people. Obviously you like to kick and elbow people. You're very good at it. you're also very good at grappling, and I think a lot of people fail to realize because what you do in the octagon doesn't necessarily look like everything that you really know how to do. So you'll have a lot of people say, well, he's great against the fence, but he can't fight in the ring. Or Tito can get a guy down, but what can he do standing up? You know, you hear a lot of these different things, but just because you haven't submitted a lot of people in the ring doesn't mean you don't know how to. Talk to me about your experience at Abu Dhabi when you were actually there.
Well, when I went to Abu Dhabi, it was kind of, people didn't know who I was. I was a college wrestler who knew how to fight. Of course, they watched my fights and I beat guys down. My attitude, I beat a guy down and he don't want to fight me again. He's like, catch me in a submission. He got lucky catching me in a submission. So I don't look for submissions in fights. But when I went to Abu Dhabi, I was like, all right, now I can kind of expose what I know on my back, what I know in submissions, my takedowns and all that. And I surprised a lot of people. I mean, I submitted a guy in my first round in like a minute 30. I submitted Mike Van Arsdale with a heel hook. I choked Sato with a side choke. I almost caught Caprito Medeiros with an arm lock. I mean, I was catching people with submission. Like, wow, how's this guy done submission? I'm a master of my own game, man. I got to know those things just in case there was a fact where I had a great kickboxer and he doesn't know nothing on the ground. Well, I'm going to bring him to the ground. I'm going to try to submit him. You know, I'm going to try to work my submissions. Just how you watch, who was it, Crow Cop and Minotauro. Minotaro's like, I'm taking this guy down. I'm submitting him. That's his game. He knows it. And the same thing with my game is like, if I'm going to get someone real good on their feet, I'm taking their asses down and put them on the ground when they don't like to be put down.
Right.
And so you got to tailor-made your fights to what they know and look for the weaknesses and expose their weaknesses when you fight. And I try to do that every time I fight. When I fought Randy Couture, he was exactly the same type of fighter I was. He did exactly what I do, and everything was to a T what I do. And he stopped my takedowns. He stopped my takedowns, and he got me flustered, man. He got me frustrated. And so I think in the fight, now I know what it feels like to be frustrated. You know, I never had that feeling before, ever in a fight where moves didn't work anymore. So now I know what that feels like. Now I can expose myself, or now I can work harder by doing those extra things. And I think when people have the games where they can do the submissions and the ground and pound or the kickboxing and everything, you can expose everything, then you start learning how to put it all together. I think that's what really matters. And I think this Couture fight is what's going to bring it out of me, where I'll start doing a lot more submission now, possibly. But I mean, people try to say that, oh, I don't know how to fight in the ring. I don't fight in the ring. Those people never see me fight in a ring. Those guys have never been to one of my seminars to see what I can do on the ground. Those are people who just talk shit because they don't know who I am, you know? That's why I like doing seminars like this. Yeah, it was a cheap seminar. It was kind of a late deal coming out here. I mean, it was kind of like Barty just said, let's come out here and do this. All right, we'll see, put a seminar together. So I'm out there for a day. And people get to see who Tito Ortiz is as a person, not just a fighter. You know? I get to show my submission moves. I get to show some of the wrestling stuff. And it's, you know, they get to kind of see what kind of person I am too. So I think it really helps out a lot.
Okay. Here's your scenario for the next 6 to 9 months, I guess, considering that you're going to fight every 3 months, right? Your next fight in April is with Chuck.
Next fight in April, Chuck. I plan on fighting in June.
You think that will be Murray?
I would love to fight Murray in June, just because all the shit that you guys been talking and kind of shut him up. And I would find a catch weight with him, not 205. 200, 199, that's fine. I can't make nothing under 199, that's impossible. I like to make catch weight with him. Fight after that, I would like to fight for the belt. You know, I think third fight should be for a belt. And Vitor, easy fight. Couture, I gotta fight my man. You know. Belfort, I think that he's a guy who you could take him out of his game real easy. And when he fought Couture, never had a chance to be taken out of his game. It was so over so quick before, and Randy never got a chance to expose any of his weaknesses. But the rematch in June, people will see. I think Randy will win. I don't have a doubt of it. But maybe Vitor might have his confidence up now. You know, Vitor does well when he has his confidence up. But him getting injured, he has a prone to get injured all the time. I wish he doesn't. I wish no injuries on any opponent or any fighter who fights. And that's the worst to have an injury. That sucks. First, you can one day be up and be down by an injury the next day, and it's just over. So, I mean, in the factory, fighting 3 times this year, I think it's possible. Finally, I think the fans deserve it. I think I owe it to the fans to do that fight. Just because the last 2 years I've had injuries, and I was only able to fight once a year. And of course, some of the movie projects that I worked on, I think. But I got to look to my future, man. Like I say, I don't want to be a Ken Shamrock or Randy Couture fighting 4 years old. Yeah, it would be nice, but I don't want it. I want to be done, man. I want to be done. I want to be in the movies. I want to make sure that I work that way where I can sit back and be like, Tito Ortiz started having his own show. You know? I started doing my own thing. Started doing a De La Hoya deal where he has so much other investments going in other places that I'm just not focused strictly on fighting, because you come to realize there's a lot of professional boxers out there that they're just signing autographs to get by. You know? And that's what I don't want. I want to sign free autographs for the rest of my life. You know, I've never charged anybody for autographs. I think that's in my mind. That's in the future, doing other things like that.
Sure. Give me just a real quick rundown on seminars that you do. Talk about your punishment clothing line real quick. Tell me just a little bit about it so people who read this and see this can get to it easily and know what all you've got going on.
Of course, my website, World Wide Web, punishmentathletics.com. It's a company I started about 3.5 years ago. Started out with punishment clothing. My brother kind of told me, it was after one of my fights, a kid came over and goes, "Hey Tito, man, you got a Tito Ortiz t-shirt?" I'm like, "No, I ain't got no t-shirts." So I came back home, my brother said, "Man, you punished that guy." And I'm like, "Punishment? Huh. I think I'll start a clothing line called Punishment." And then I went to punishment.com. I see it was a porno site. I was like, "Oh, okay, can't be punishment." So I was like, "All right, punishment clothing." I did punishment clothing. I've had that for about 2 years. And over this last year, I'm trying to get to extreme sports, into the snowboard, the offshore, not offshore racing, but dirt bike riding and stuff like that. I'm trying to get to those guys. Punishment athletics, man. We're all athletes, and we all punish our bodies in one way or another. Either it's in training, bike riding, snowboarding, anything, man. So I've kind of got that attitude, and I kind of like I said, punish your opponents and look good doing it, man. With the clothing line, and I try to get all colors for everybody. You know, red, white, blue, yellow. I mean, black. I mean, different designs, different attitudes of the designs. I mean, each one's kind of similar, but at the same time, it has a different attitude from the different fights that I've fought that I've worn. The flame beans, the flame shorts. The reason the flame shorts is I knee the shit out of people. I'm gonna catch their asses on fire when I knee them. That's what I think of it as. So I mean, just the clothing line itself, I just try to get it for everybody, for everybody in the family, for toddlers, for kids, of course, the youth, teenagers, even for mom and dad and grandpa. I mean, sweatshirts, jackets, hats, beanies, sweatpants. I mean, we pretty much tailor-made to all athletic wear. And I'm trying to make it a little bigger where I start making Levi's, stuff like that. Just some of the casual wear, man, for everybody to go out to clubs and stuff like that. Look nice with some of the punishment gear on. So, I mean, it's good gear, it's a good price. I mean, everything I make that's made, I make sure I go over everything. It's high quality stuff. You're not going to get any cheap t-shirts, and it's a 100% satisfaction guarantee. If not, your money back for sure. And I make sure that happens, because what I'm going to wear is something I'm going to sell. If I'm going to sell it, I'll make sure I'm going to wear it. That's all I wear is punishment clothes, man. That's it.
Right on. Promotion within, right?
Yeah, always.
Okay, tell me about seminars real quick.
Seminars, I haven't really been trying to focus on seminars, but after these 3 fights, I think I'll try to do at least 4 more seminars. But it's kind of like I say, it's people to get to know Tito Ortiz, not the Honey Beach bad boy, but Tito Ortiz the person. Kind of show what type of person I am. Of course, I go over nutrition, I go over my life a little bit, and get the people kind of know me as a person. You know, people see me in the TV so much, or in the act God of I'm the bad guy, man. I'm the asshole, or I'm the guy with the attitude. And yeah, there is that attitude, man. You gotta have attitude in stepping out, or you're gonna get your ass kicked. So I mean, there's 2 different people, and when I do seminars, I like to show people the difference, the hard work ethic that I do have, the submissions I have, the wrestling I have, the nutrition, how I eat, and everything what is tailor-made to be a champion. I mean, I was a champ for 3.5 years, defended my belt 6 times, so it's just a factor of I pretty much knew what it took to win. And I'm going to know what it's take to win again when I win my belt back.
Well, Tito, I'm impressed. I think you're a hell of a good man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Love watching you guys. Been a huge fan from the beginning. Caught one of your shirts one time when you had the little Gordon Bruce shirt.
Yeah, that was
thrilling, man. That's all.
All right, cool.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. If you want to give me your personal